Are you ready to turn financial planning from a boring chore into an enlightening and entertaining adventure? Join us today as we dive into the art of financial goal setting, where we'll blend humor, education, and practical tips to set you on the path to financial success. Grab your favorite beverage, sit back, and let's turn those financial goals into reality with a smile.
Welcome to the show where we go deep inside the intersection of finance and the human mind. Jim and Ryan are here to guide. Get ready to explore. Let's embark on this ride. Money mindset mastery. Where we break it all down.
I almost wanted to do air guitar there.
Okay.
Rock and roll.
Next episode.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're live again. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Money Mindset Mastery podcast. I'm your host, Jim, and joining me today is Ryan. Ryan, how are things today?
Great. I'm excited to talk about a blog that I've written, and as always, I try to incorporate a bit of humor with everything because, let's be honest, financial stuff is a little bit dry, so that's why I like to make it a little bit funny at the same time, but it's serious. So hopefully somebody takes something away from this, or you share it with your kids, they learn something you may have fallen asleep with at school. Not that school teaches a whole lot of this financial literacy piece, and especially when it comes to goal setting. I do remember being in school and learning a little bit about goal setting, and the one thing that probably hasn't changed over 50 or 60 years is the SMART analogy, which I'm sure we'll briefly chat about too. So,
I don't think I've ever really heard this about the SMART analogy. I don't recall going through a class learning about goal setting. So I don't know. Maybe you went to a special school compared to me. So we're going to get into your blog post, and this is your debut blog post that we will be posting on TVH Financial's website as well as TVH Group, and we will also have it in the description. So you have a link to the blog post as well. Ryan, I know we're live here, but I basically see the bottom half of your forehead.
Okay.
Yeah, so, can you adjust the screen at all? The camera? There you go. All right, now we see the full Ryan. Because we don't want to give him partial Ryan. We want to give him full Ryan.
Yeah,
no
full Monties here.
No. So we're going to talk about the art of financial goal setting, a humorous and educational guide, because you did want to add a bit of your humor as well and kind of get that out to people. So this is, again, your first blog post, right?
Yeah, it is my first blog post. Worked hard, and I learned a lot about making sure that you save documents through this.
Right.
So it's all about learning, right, Jim? So
yeah, for sure.
So
there's a lot in here to kind of unpack, and I don't know if we're going to really go through everything within the blog post itself. We don't want to give it all away, but let's talk about why set financial goals. Like, why would someone want to set financial goals?
Well, I think as I've explained to many clients too, is like the GPS analogy, right? You kind of need to know where you're going with things, right? But the importance of using a GPS is, where's your starting point? And we've talked a lot about this in our podcasts, and we talk about it with our clients about the use of plan worth and helping collecting data and making sure we get a good picture of where you're currently at. That way we can use, big brush strokes of Bob Ross to paint a better picture of what your goals are. And you know what? So many people, I'm gonna use a 50-50. I'd say 50% of the clients that I talk with in the beginning have never actually set a goal before, especially when it comes to their finances, right? And we'll talk more about short-term versus longer-term goals and how that plays a bigger effect on what we invest you in, what you decide to making an investment in. And what does that short-term goal or long-term goal as far as like monetary value look like too? But I think it really creates a purpose for each client as to achieving something. And there's a lot of great articles out there about the psychology of setting goals for yourself and the journey that it takes to achieve that goal and the sense of accomplishment when it happens. And they don't have to be big outlandish goals like, I don't know, buying an island or anything like that, but it can be something that's a little bit smaller, more achievable, and especially for younger people, younger listeners, the importance of setting these smaller goals, whether it's making a sports team, whether it's say, I remember probably the first goal that I remember was saving for a bicycle. Whole lot of Canadian Tire money collected at that time in my life too. But the reaching that goal and the pride that I had taking care of that bike too, it's probably still sitting in my parents' garage. I wouldn't be surprised if it's still immaculate the way like it came off the line. But yeah, it's just a lot of goal driven allows a little bit of purpose for people and how each of them can achieve that goal and how we can help support them with it. So
Yeah, I like the GPS analogy because I'm actually getting ready, as you know, to go on it's going to take us 2 days to get to our destination. That's still in Ontario as well. So we're not going south, we're going north. And right now I'm literally going through the process of what route should I take. So if I didn't have a map and I just knew that I want to get from here to there,
yeah,
and I got in the car and I started driving, I think that would take me a lot longer if I ended up getting to the final destination as a result.
yeah,
So now what do? I use Google Maps as an example, just like you and I use planning software. And we establish these goals and we try to figure out, or we map out, how can we get there? And with Google Maps, what I like is, it shows me, well, you can kind of go around the longer way. It's a little bit straighter, a little bit longer in terms of kilometers, but no twisties, probably safer to get there. It's just going to take me a little bit longer to get to my final destination if I take that route. And then there's the other route, which is to go part of the way through the States. Well, that might cost me a little bit more just because of the exchange rate, and I'll have to deal with that. And then there's what we refer to as the scenic route. It's probably the fastest way of me getting there, but it definitely has a lot more twisties, nicer view,
yeah,
and I have one of three options. If we look at retirement planning, we can say conservative, balanced growth, right? So right now I'm decided that we're probably going to take the balanced approach in getting to where we have to go to, but at least I can see that and I can visualize it, right? And that's why setting the goals and having a planning program to guide you through that entire process, and someone who knows how to read the map, right? Like you and I.
yeah,
So I do like the analogy. So then there's people who, when they set goals, they try to determine, well, I've got some short-term goals I have to set, and I have some long-term goals. And we know it's easier for people to achieve their shorter-term goals from a psychological point of view. But let's talk about that, setting short-term versus long-term goals.
yeah. I think
Maybe give us some examples.
Well, again, when it comes to shorter term goals, it helps you establish a rhythm, helps you create behaviors and habits that help support the longer term goal, right? And I think for shorter term goals, again, it's immediate gratification to be able to save for something shorter term that you get a result in, right? Because for a lot of people, the longer term goal is either saving for a house or for retirement. You don't see the gratification that comes in the longer term. And it's really, when it comes to the shorter terms, it's, I guess the analogy is like, it's like the appetizer, right? It's a little taste sampling of everything that's going on in the world, where the longer term goal is more the main course leading into the other things, again, depending on what type of meal plan you have. how many courses are going to be part of this, right? So, but I think for people with shorter term goals, it really helps them establish what is most important for them versus what their longer term goal is, creating a larger emergency fund, retirement. And retirement for a lot of people is just so way out there, they can't even think about it. That's where we come into play, right? As let's help you create those behaviors in the short term to make sure that you achieve the longer term goal of whatever that big thing is for you. Because if you're not getting the guidance, the support, then you can spend all your time, all your money, only achieving, hopefully, only achieving like little short term goals that really, in the end, you never ever achieve the longer term goal. So, yeah, I think one of the things, obviously, for shorter term goals is creating a small emergency fund, having it that is small, manageable chunks for people. I don't know if there's anything else for you that you've seen with clients when it comes to shorter term goals that's helped them establish or create them and achieve them quickly.
No, nothing specific, but I'm going to play off this analogy a little bit with you because I'm a bit hungry and it does make sense to me. So you're saying short-term goal is like the appetizer, right? And
Yeah.
long-term goal is like the main course, for example.
Yeah.
And it is difficult at times to kind of strike the right balance. So I think to myself, when I go into a restaurant and I am starving, my immediate gratification, my short-term goal is to get something into my stomach as quickly as possible. The danger in that, if I put too much bread into my short-term goal and chips, it's not going to be much left over for my main course, for my long-term goal.
Yeah.
Now, the other option is I can sit there and I can starve because I'm focused on my long-term goal, my main course, and not really do much with the short-term goal, my appetizer. Man, am I going to be unhappy and grouchy and not a nice person to be around. So it's having dealing with the short-term issue, which is my hunger, not overdoing it, so there's enough there for the main course as well, kind of striking that balance.
Yeah.
Money management, guys, it's really not that complicated. It's the same thing,
Yeah.
right? It's doing a bit of both and how to determine what the right balance is. So,
Yeah. And for that balance, the balance too, I was going to say is, especially on the financial side too, is people are always worried. I just don't have the money. But sometimes it's, $20 a month, $25 a month just to start off. And I read an article a couple weeks ago that talked about people who are financially rich versus people who are not. And the people who were financially rich were the ones that were putting away money first, making sure that they were achieving their short and long-term goals first and foremost before attacking like their day-to-day stuff. So they were putting away the money first so they didn't even see it. We'll talk about the power of automation and making sure that you don't see that and that it goes away and that you're only working with X amount of dollars a month. So, but it's a different philosophy of how you think about money, that the money doesn't just simply come in and go out, but it's some of it you just don't see because you've automated it to make sure you're constantly putting money away and that you're working with what's left with it. So,
also known as pay yourself first or for savings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Sure.
So, and I think obviously the balancing act is understanding that for younger people, their longer term goal may not be defined right now. And for some people that are older, it may not be defined because maybe some of them have achieved some of their longer term goals, and it's just about enjoying the here and the now. So, for us, let's help you talk about that. And I know I'm trying to be more serious about it right now too, right? Which becomes really a fine juggling, balancing act between the two activities, and that you work with the right people and surround yourself by the right people. You can achieve both pretty easily. So,
well, let's talk about SMART goals. I guess SMART goals, is that the opposite of dumb goals? Like dollars under mattress bed. Is that what that would stand for?
In
See,
the
like
in the freezer.
I'm just on fire today.
Yes.
So let's talk about SMART goals. What are they? What does it mean?
So SMART, whether it's college, university, you've taken some sort of business, or your boss has come to you with SMART goals, part of your own development plan. SMART goals stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So, very easily to be specific about a goal. About if I just want to save $5,000, there's no there's no specific reason why you're saving that $5,000. But if you attach something to it, like, you're saving for a down payment of a car, perhaps you're saving for the down payment on a home, saving for college or university, then there's the ability to make sure that you're more specific. And the more specific, the more detailed you can be about this. The second is measurable. Being able to track your progress. Jim, you and I, we have monthly meetings to track our own progress, talk about how we can continue to improve our business, how we can continue to grow ourselves as advisors and as people. It's very important to make sure that you're tracking that progress to see where you're at. And having, again, I will go back to always having the right team or the right pieces in place to make sure that you're able to measure those things, and the teams that are going to help you bring that all together. And then again, A for SMART is achievable, right? Set a realistic goal. Let's be honest. It's, for a young person or an older person, when it comes to whether it's retirement or saving for a house, maybe there's a lot more that you need to do to make sure that you're able to achieve a specific goal. If your goal is to save $1,000 a month, but you're only bringing in $1,000 a month when it comes to income, that's not necessarily an achievable goal. Some changes have to be made on your side. So, and then make sure it's relevant. Make sure that your goals align with your values, and it's your values and your goals, and not social media's goals or your friends or a family member's goal for you. But make it relevant to what you want to do. Say it's saving for a family vacation. That again goes back to your values and what's important to you. And then set yourself some deadlines. That's the biggest thing of, keeping yourself accountable, and whether you have a team or an advisor that's able to help you create those deadlines and what's achievable. I think it's important, because then you can see the progress. You can see that I have, 2 years to save for a giant family vacation or whatever it is. By having that and setting it in your calendar as reminders, what are some checkpoints that you need to have along the way as you set that timeline? So, yeah, that's what you missed. Maybe you missed that school day, Jim, for SMART goals.
I missed a lot of school days, but we won't get into that. So you touched a little bit on this about the power of automation.
Yeah.
Automating, I think, is one of the most important things to do, and it becomes a bit of a habit. I know when I first started in the industry, we talked about the pay yourself first strategy, and the wealthy barber, and at the time it was 10% of your income should be set aside first. And I remember at the time making those recommendations, and I did it myself personally. It took about 2 or 3 months to readjust, and then after that it was fine. And I would feel good about the fact that I had set that money aside. So I think automation is very important.
Yeah.
Part of it could be a dollar figure, it could be a percentage of income, whatever it is. I know that some investment companies have certain minimums to deal with some of these automations. So if that's the case and you're trying to find some help, there are some of the robo-advisor platforms, not that we're a great fan of them, but as a starting point, they do offer much smaller minimums to help out with some of the automation as well.
Yeah.
So I think literally it just becomes a habit. If you think about it, people own homes. It is almost a forced savings. Like you're living in your home, you're making that mortgage payment. At some point, you're hoping to have equity down the line that you can tap into. It is a form of forced savings, but there are other methods as well.
And again, the dollar amount. As long as you're doing it, that's all that matters, right? Because you'd be surprised how that money will start accumulating, and the power of compound interest and the power of buying in the highs and lows of the market, dollar cost averaging, all of that will work towards your advantage. So, yeah.
Yep. So I like this one, feeling the flow of cash flow.
That's right.
This is one that we've definitely been focusing on a lot more recently, and helping our clients out with cash flow planning, behavioral cash flow planning specifically. So let's talk about understanding cash flow and the importance of tracking income and expenses and savings.
Well, yeah, I think, as a certified cash flow specialist too, it was important, and we'll get into that part next, which is budgeting, which is even funnier. But I've found over the last few years, understanding your cash flow is much more important than setting a budget, because you truly understand your behaviors, and the behaviors are the things that create habits, and habits create better behaviors. It's just a full circle. And before you know it, by understanding the cash flow of what's truly coming into your life and what is very quickly flowing out of your life, you can plug a hole in it, right? It's like a sinking ship. For a lot of people, especially Canadians, that don't understand at the end of the month what happened to all my money and why I have nothing left, it's because you haven't understood your cash flow yet, and you haven't understood the behaviors. So talking to the right, you go to many financial institutions that are just talking about budgeting and talking about your investments, and that is all they're talking about. Or they're just really talking about your investments. Really, they're talking about your investments, and that's it, right? So what we try to do differently, and I know we're one of very few out there that are actually helping people to coach them and teach them about their cash flow, and how we can make sure that we potentially put some silly putty, duct tape, whatever thing is, to help ease the leaking and hopefully allow you to start understanding where that's coming from. So I think that's the feeling the flow with cash flow.
Yeah, and that's different than budgeting. And I know we've knocked budgeting from time to time. And part of it is because when people use budgets, it's actually an inappropriate method for what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about budgeting and really the role of budgeting and why someone would budget for certain things, but focus on behavioral cash flow planning for something else.
Well, I think, budgeting is really more for shorter term, right? Or that there's achievable something that you're trying, like you have a vacation and you want to make sure that you stay within budget. So, through cash flow, you've created an avenue to put aside money towards this vacation. The vacation was $5,000. All right. So what are you going to do with that $5,000? That's where the budgeting comes into place. You're going to spend X amount on stay, X amount on groceries, X amount on entertainment, and maybe some other fun things. And I think that's kind of the biggest things. And where I spun a lot of the fun is, budgeting is boring. Budgeting is hard. And it's not sexy at all in any way. So how do we bring some of the fun into it? And as I mentioned in my blog, have fun with labeling some of what your categories are. That way, eating out is fuel for the belly, and entertainment is our fun fund, things like that. So it's really, cash flow allows you to make sure that you're rewarding yourself, to allow you to budget, to make sure that you're achieving these small goals, to make sure that you're creating the habits for longer term goals. So,
and then you talk about starting young. So the early bird gets the worm. So why should someone start young, even if they don't have a lot of money to start off with?
Yeah. Well, I should have said slow and steady wins the race, but it was focused on for many people, and
Missed opportunity, Ryan. Missed
yes, I know. Well, blog hasn't gone out yet, so
opportunity.
but yeah, early bird gets worm. Again, it's about creating those habits early on when you're younger, right? You know, and I've writing a blog that helps you tackle some of those things when it comes to your kids at different ages. But the habits that we create when we're younger, the habits that are kind of dawned upon us as parents pushing onto our children, is to help hopefully create good habits. Good eating habits, good financial habits, good mental health habits. Right. All of those start at an earlier age, and the sooner you start, the better that you will be off in the long run. And I guess what the saying is, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time to plant it is right now. So how are you planting the seeds for yourself, your kids, your family members, to make sure that they are, I guess, as we all try to achieve, is that we're all better off and we continue to get better as life goes on, and that we learn from those experiences. So I think, again, the early bird, it's best to start as early as possible, as young as possible, to establish those things. And again, there's a lot of great resources out there, which we're welcome to chat about on another podcast or one-on-one, whether it's books or certain articles that we can help make sure that you're helping your family and yourself, for that means, to achieve those goals. So
You mentioned forget the Joneses, focus on yourself. So you mean chasing others and what they do? That's a bad idea. It's a bad strategy.
yeah, I think the more we can focus on ourselves and what truly makes ourselves happy, and I guess we all know the story of the people chasing the Joneses, and it's, the information is out there of how deep in debt we are because our neighbor gets a new car, and it's, what is it? For every third person that gets a new car, it's like there's an 80% chance that you will get a new car if three other people around you. Same with, there was a study that they did where people painted their house front door an unusual color, and then somebody else would follow and somebody else, and then it just creates this ongoing trend, right? Not to say painting your door is keeping up with the Joneses, but you can see how the behaviors of the people around us can really affect and create pitfalls for ourselves when it comes to trying to maintain this kind of lifestyle. You've said it for yourself. What works for you is not what works for me, and what works for one client is not the same that works for another. So every time we work with clients, we're very focused on them and truly unraveling what it is that is important to them, important to their business, important to their family, and making sure that they really focus on them and themselves. And I think it's important because if you can't help yourself, you don't help yourself, focus on yourself, then you can't truly help others. So, yeah.
Finally, what are some thought-provoking questions to help one get into the right mindset?
I don't know. Good question, Jim. So, that's thought-provoking in itself. Again, I just kind of touched upon this, which is, what are your core values, and how do your core values align with your financial goals, and making sure that you're doing all the things that we kind of talked about to make sure you stay on the right path. A big one that is often hard for people to talk about, which is, what sacrifices are you willing to take now to achieve your short-term goals or long-term goals? I know it's only $5.99 a month, but I canceled my Netflix for the summer, right? But that's $5.99 that I didn't have before, and I'm freeing up time for myself and for my son and my family and the people that I care about, to make sure that I'm finding that time for them. and also have a lot of yard work that needed to get done too. So, and I listed 5 in the blog that I have, but I think the last one is another big one too. Is who can I turn to for support and accountability? Jim, you and I work together. We help each other become accountable for the things that we do. We help support each other endlessly for making sure that we're always doing the right thing, that we're always finding the right solution for the clients that we're working with. 2 brains are better than 1, or 2 half brains are better than 1. So, but I think it's important when it comes to the blog too, is asking yourselves and really reflecting: are you putting yourself in the right mindset to make sure that you're able to achieve those goals? Because I guess the stories that I have is number of clients that have come saying, I'll never buy a home, but knowing that if you do the right things, you attach yourself to the right core values, you keep yourself accountable, and you have the right team around you to help support that. I've had a couple of clients that never thought they'd ever, and they're in their mid-20s, so that have closed on, sorry, not a house, but a condo, as a great first step for that. So,
Well, that's the mindset, right? I think we've talked about this, and I know when I was young, looking at buying a home, I felt the same way. Like, it was just something that I didn't feel was achievable based on my income at the time and what the prices were at the time. So I bought something small. It got me into the market. And after 2 years, when we started a family with Carol and I was able to afford something a little bit bigger because the house value went up a little bit, and paid down some of the mortgage, and eventually led to where I'm living now, which is closer to my dream home, what I've always wanted. But it took time.
yeah,
And it's a staged process. So
absolutely.
with the house purchasing, definitely have to set your money aside. There's different ways to do that, and different financial instruments where you can do that. But I think you also have to consider location, size, just get yourself in the market, and eventually kind of stage yourself, or go through the different stages or steps to ultimately get into the home that you really, really want to live into, and what may be considered your dream home. Right?
Yeah.
So it is a bit of a mindset as well.
Yeah, and the book that I read recently, and I mentioned it on a podcast too, Bruce Lee's daughter, Be Water, My Friend. There's a lot of great information, and one of the things that stood out in reading that book was like, talking about sacrifices in your core. What's the 10% or even the 5% that you're willing to do for yourself right now to make sure that you're creating those behaviors and habits to achieve whatever that goal is. 5%. Whether it's you're tired at the end of the day to read 1 or 2 pages of a book that will help you understand your wellness, your financial wellness, whatever it is, maybe help with something that's going on in your life. Let's start helping people move towards their goals through doing just little. It's what's the best way to eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So,
With a knife and a fork.
oh well, yeah, that too. So,
But you are right. take small, like, start. It's really just start, and then build from there.
and if you don't have the right mindset, surround yourself by people that do have that great mindset that can help move you in that direction. Right? So, yeah.
So, Ryan, I'm feeling like a bit of a proud papa right now, because you wrote your first blog post. We're going to be posting it on our different websites. So, again, what's the title of the blog post?
The Art of Financial Goal Setting, a humorous and educational guide.
Yeah, so if you want to go ahead and read that, we are going to be posting it on our tvhfinancial.ca website. So go to tvhfinancial.ca, look for blog on the left-hand side, and then you'll be able to find Ryan Janot's blog, and that's where we're going to be posting this one. You've written another one we're going to be talking about probably in September, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to some other blog posts and things that you're going to share with people. And as always, Ryan, how can they get a hold of us if they have any questions?
Ryan or Jim at TVH Financial. There's financial at tvhgroup.ca. I always forget our phone number, Jim, so I'll let you take over from that.
647-727-4668.
I don't call
and
myself, so.
No, I know. But if you do want to email us, financial at tvhgroup.ca is the one to use. And then look us up again on YouTube, X, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, you name it. We're out there. So I had a good session today.
Yeah.
Had a really good time going through this, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, Ryan, you take care.
Yeah.